Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Mitch, and today is the 13th of January 2022. Can you believe it? I'm here in Tsitsernakaberd Park, or as some of you might know, it's the park where the Genocide Memorial is, the monument and the museum. So today I'm in my favorite environment. It snowed last night. We haven't had really heavy snow this year. It was a fairly light dusting. You can probably hear the crunch underneath my shoes. So it's a cold morning. Yeah, Magpie agrees with me as usual. And yeah, it's a cold morning. So the snow that did fall, basically, the snow that did fall has turned to ice. Anyway, let's get a start on what we're going to talk about today. This is my favourite little spot, particularly in the warmer months. Come and sit here on this log, meditate, say a little prayer. Oh, one caveat before I continue with this vlog. I do want to say, and I'm not ashamed to say this, and that is that I'm a Christian man. I'm not a preacher, but I'm not scared to mention God's name. I'm not scared to mention the fact that He is my Lord. His beloved Son, Jesus, is my Saviour. We need Him now more than ever in this world of confusion, mass confusion, hysteria. We need calmness. We need people with minds who can think for themselves and not be told what to do all the time by the government. We need freedom of choice. Anyway, isn't this beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? So if you are offended by my speaking about Christianity from time to time, I suggest you tune out now. Go to another channel. And sorry to see you go, but I understand that there are a lot of people who are just after entertainment videos. They want quick facts. They're not interested in my position on the Christian faith. And this is where I'm going to go today, down here. And I want to show you something as we talk. Firstly, about the 3 things I don't like very much in Armenia. Let's say the top 3 things that I don't like in Armenia. So as you can see, it looks like a pristine environment here. A wonderful view of the gorge, buildings on the other side, and mountains in the distance, and the Yerevan bridge here. So I guess we'll start with number 3 reason, and we'll work our way to number 1. This is the thing that I hate to see in Armenia, and it is rubbish. Litter, cigarette butts, plastic bottles, glass bottles, plastic bags, all thrown down here. You can't see it so well because it's half covered by snow, but this will probably never get cleaned up unless some industrious person like myself notifies the government and or the council and says, let's get a team together and clean this up, let's get an advertising campaign going, etc, etc. Yeah, it's a crying shame, really, and people don't seem to give a damn about littering their beautiful country. A lot of people, not all. I want to combine littering with smoking, particularly men smoking. I would say, and I'm not exaggerating, at least 95% of men from the age of as early as 17 through to old men smoke, and smoke heavily, probably 3 packets a day. And what they do with those cigarettes, of course, they're killing themselves. Let's just forget about the current disease that is gripping everybody with fear at the moment across the world, and say, why don't we concentrate on things like lung cancer? People are dying in Armenia at a far, far greater rate from lung cancer, and it's time we did something about this. Government has tried advertising campaign, but this needs to go. This needs to start really in the schools. Big media campaign is needed through all TV stations. The reason that I'm combining that with littering is because where did the cigarette butts get thrown? On the ground, and it's a tragedy. So yes, so littering and smoking, men's health, big issues here in Armenia. I don't come from this culture, but I do understand why a lot of men might take up smoking, because they don't have jobs, they don't have a good enough paying job, etc. But killing yourself is not the answer through smoking. The second reason is the inefficiency of services, or the service industry, whether that be governmental or private, whether it be the banking sector, government offices, public healthcare system. There is a lack of coordination. There is a lack of interconnectivity of departments. You find yourself going to one department and they do a fairly good job within their own sphere, but outside of that they really don't have, there's no collaboration with other, or very little collaboration with other government departments. So the service industry in general is in need of help. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So say for example I go to a public what we call polyclinic here. It's like a small hospital with different rooms that you go to see different specialists. You start off with your GP, your own GP, and he or she will refer you to who you need to go and see next. So in order to do this, you would think that there would be some sort of system in place to go to these different rooms, like you take a ticket or something. No, ticket doesn't exist. It's first in, best dressed, and so very often there's 10 people waiting in front of you, and you have to kind of determine your place in the queue. Here, and then somebody will come along, not even knock on the door of the doctor's office, and just barge in and ask a question, and sometimes even jump the queue because they happen to know a doctor there who goes in with them, and they jump the queue. That doesn't happen all the time, but what I'm saying is it's really random, inefficient, but I've actually learnt to embrace the madness, and I actually don't mind waiting in the queue, because the doctors are so nice. They do their best. The nurses, they know that the system is far from perfect, but they do their best. So yeah, that would be probably number 2, inefficiency of government and private sector services, the service industry in general. For the sake of brevity, let's jump to the number 1 thing that I dislike about Armenia. So here's an example of a extremely overcrowded bus. This is like a mid-sized bus. The smaller ones are even worse when they're jam-packed full, but there's, yeah, they're packed in like sardines there. And here's an overcrowded marshutka, little one. Terrible. But the situation is getting a little bit better. The Yerevan Council have invested in quite a lot of new mid-sized buses, which is going to be a big improvement, I think. Now, on the crazy traffic side of things, we come to this U-turn place here on Yerevan Street. It's the way back down to our home. If we were coming from this direction, wanting to go to our home, we'd have to do something like that car there is doing right now. Yeah, you're basically taking your life into your own hands to get across the road. Hopefully somebody's going to let you in, taxi across there, and another Range Rover behind that, all trying to get around. So, as you have seen in the little intro, the number one thing that I don't like in Armenia is the traffic. It's chaotic. I just showed you a little example of some overcrowded marshutkas, and which are little buses, and also crazy U-turns, but this is nothing compared to what happens on the road, the open road, and when traffic is really heavy, people just cutting each other off all of the time, changing lanes without indicating. Most people don't wear seat belts, even in the modern cars which are fitted with them. They don't wear them. Why? I mean, for goodness sake, what? Just save the seatbelt. The car must add some value to the car or something by having a pristine seatbelt that's never been used. Mobile phones. Well, you've heard me speak about this in other videos. Mobile phones are great if you use them for their intended purpose, but when you're driving a car, I was always taught in the police force that you need 100% attention on the road. So if you are using a mobile phone while you're driving without a seatbelt and smoking a cigarette, obviously there is not 100% attention on the road, and particularly when you're texting, which is what most Armenians do. Taxi drivers, bus drivers, it goes on and on. Everybody is doing it. Police turn a blind eye. I think there is a law against it. I'm almost certain there is, and yet people continue to do it. That's my number one thing that I hate in Armenia, the way that people drive. But the motorists are friendly too when they've cut you off. When they've cut in front of your car, they will put on their hazard lights, and the hazard lights are like saying thank you. Thank you for letting me cut you off. Yeah. So I've learned to embrace that too, to some degree. So that would be the number one thing that I hate in Armenia. Hate's a strong word, I know, but I really hate the way people drive here. I'm going to try to do my best to effect some change with the powers that I have. Good luck to me. I can use your prayers for that. So with that, that's all of the negative stuff done away with. Okay, so what's the one thing that I love in Armenia? Before I fall off this cliff, yeah, it's pretty precarious just here. By the way, Mrs. Mitch is working this morning. She can't be with us, but sends her love to you all. So the one thing that I love in Armenia, above all other things, the one thing that makes this country so beautiful to live in, is family. or we could say traditional family values. And it warms my heart when I see so many families together, happy, loving each other, respecting each other, and children respecting their parents, parents loving their children and guiding them as best they can. I particularly like the village life. Sonia and I, we have like an adopted family there, which you know of, but this family reminds me of all that is good in the world. They live a very simple life. They are quite poor and yet very rich. They have little, but they have everything. They respect and love each other. The children respect their parents, the 3 girls. And other families who we've met here in Armenia, we can say the same also about them. It's what holds, it's what knits Armenia together. And in one sense, we are, all Armenians are a big family. And I'm honoured to be counted amongst that big family because people have accepted me here. I feel at home here. And I would encourage anybody who's thinking about coming to Armenia, this would be the number one reason to come. It's a sense of normality exists here in this country. Yes, there are influences that are creeping in a very small way, in a very small percentage. This has come about by social media, young people listening to all sorts of, I'm sorry to say, crap about the PC culture or political correctness or liberalism or the woke movement or progressiveness, however you want to say it, however you want to describe the current movement, talking about agenda all of the time. You know, it seems to me that if you believe in God, he actually knew what he was doing when he created when he created us. He created Adam first and then Eve. He created man and woman. He created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Now, some people might think that if you've got a family with girls, for example, and you teach them mothering skills from an early age, how to cook, clean, look after guests when they arrive, that this is kind of some kind of oppression. But if you could see the delight on girls' faces when they learn these skills, you will understand it's not oppression at all. It's freedom. It's how God made us to be. He made us different, you know, male and female. We're not the same. Biologically, we're not the same. And we have different skill sets. That's not to say that a woman can't have a career. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is there's nothing wrong with being a mother, because that's exactly what and how God made women, to be able to bear children to their husbands. What's so difficult to understand about that? Why is all this talk about different genders changing the body that God gave them, mutilating their bodies? Because in their minds they think that they were born a different gender, or they morphed into some kind of different gender. It's a sickness, and it's a sad, sad plight on our society today. I'm sorry, that's not the general opinion of young people in the Western world anymore. They probably think I'm mad. I'll let them think I'm mad. There were lots of obviously mad people in the Bible also, and through the centuries. And does anybody remember the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah? I suppose many of you might think that's just fairy tale, but they were destroyed by God because of the iniquity that he found in those two cities, where they were wholly given over to sexual immorality, homosexuality, etc. I was listening to Dr. Ben Carson, who I happen to love. He's a wonderful man of colour from America. Came from a very, very poor family. His mother basically raised him, and she told him to read books. At first he didn't like to read books. He just wanted to get out there and play. But after a time he learnt to love reading, to study. And he became one of the greatest neurosurgeons of all time. Dr. Ben Carson. You might want to look him up if you don't know him. He's a Christian man and he talks a lot of sense. The other day I heard him say that our brain, which probably a lot of you know anyway, consists of billions of tiny neurons. Billions. And billions of interconnections. And our brain is capable of processing 1 million bits of information per second. God gave us this amazing brain to use, not to be told what to do like sheep. Unfortunately, I see a lot of sheep in America, in Australia, and generally in the West. We're losing our freedoms. We're not challenging things anymore because we just accept what the government says. We can't think for ourselves whether we have a right to put into our bodies what we choose to put into. They want to mandate what we put into our bodies. Now, I'm neither for nor against vaccines. Let me get that straight, but I think everybody has a right to determine what they put into their own bodies. Why don't we ban smoking, for example? That causes lung cancer, heart disease, but no, governments would stand to lose too much in taxation, surely. So there is a very hypocritical kind of standard going on. Now, I said at the beginning that I'm not ashamed to mention God's name, and I'm not. I want to say that in closing, that in the 20th chapter of the book of Exodus in the Old Testament, God gave 10 commandments to Moses on Mount Sinai. I wonder if any of us could quote those 10 commandments now. Probably not. But the 5th commandment is the first commandment with promise. First commandment with promise. And it goes like this. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Honor your father and your mother. Not Bill and Ben, not Jean and Jill, but mother and father. You see how God sanctifies the institution of marriage in that verse. And in the New Testament we find something very similar. The reason I've got a little bit of paper here is because I don't want to get this wrong. It comes from the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honour your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. So there you have it. There you have it, friends. That is the solution, or one of the solutions to the problems we face in the world today. We don't honour family. We don't honour our parents. Parents perhaps are not doing the right thing by their children. There's a lot of divorce, separation. I know there are all of these problems. But here in Armenia, the institution of marriage is kept. Yes, we have problems here in marriage. Not every marriage is perfect, but from what I've seen, it's the best way. It's not just reading verses from the Bible and saying, oh yeah, I have to follow that way. No, it's the best way. It's the purest way, folks. And have I said enough? Can you now just hear the silence maybe for a minute instead of my voice? Why don't you listen to God's voice? Maybe pick up a Bible, read it for yourselves. Even the first few chapters of the Old Testament, and at least the Gospels in the New Testament, at least that. Ask God to open your heart, because He's opening many people's hearts at the moment, and they can see that something is drastically wrong in this world. Something drastically wrong in this world. Family values are being attacked all of the time by this stupid gender business. It's honestly, it's sickening. What people do in their own homes is their business. But please, don't bring your Western evil ideology to Armenia. It's not welcome here. People don't accept this here. There are some groups here. I think there is some LGBTQ, XYZ, ABCDE, whatever you want to call it, community here, but it's small. They're trying to spread their poison, but I pray, it's my prayer, that all of their efforts will come to nothing, and that the Armenian youth will understand what a privilege it is to be brought up by a mum and dad. And this is largely what the young people still want to do today in Armenia: get married and have a family. God bless you all. You'll hear from us again soon, no doubt, in a week's time. Sonia and I will try to do a video together. In the meantime, folks, look, this is just what's been on my heart. I needed to say it. If I lose some subscribers, I'm not terribly fussed. I love you all. It doesn't matter that you don't share my opinion, my belief, but try to think for yourselves with this amazing brain that God has given us all. So, love you all. God bless. It's bye from Mitch.